Let's see where we're holding. I think we're holding by Amar Rav Huna. Tefillin Kozman Shetavlakim Ksheris. Did we do that? So is that what we're holding on the bottom of 35a? Okay. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. Supposed to be learning we should have the base of Mikdash immediately. Let's see. The Gemara starts like this: Amar Rav Huna, Tefillin Kozman Shepnei Tabla Kayem. So we're talking about if we're talking about the bottom of the tefillin. If there was a tear in the inside compartments of the tefillin, Abuna is saying that it's still acceptable as long as the outside frame is still there. Rav Chizda Amar, Rav Chizda says, Nifsaku shtayim ksheris, shalish is psulas. Again, there's 4 compartments in the inside. So he says if in the 4 compartments it would be 2 outer walls. And then you have inner, you have 1, 2, 3 walls on the inside. 3 walls on the inside. So he's saying that if 2 of the walls in the inside are torn, so it's kosher, but not 3. See, from Rav Huna, it looks like that it could be torn on the inside as long as the outside is good. Comes along Rav Chizda and says not necessarily so, because you need to have one wall inside intact. In Amar Rava says, Hada Amran Shtayim Ksheris Layamaran Elazesh Lekenegadzeh. Aval Zekenegadzeh Psulis. Rava says that what Rav Chizda meant, that it could be kosher if there's 2 that are torn on the inside, that's because there's 2 inside walls. There's 3 inside walls, but the 2 that are the inside are not 2 that are next to each other. You have the outside walls, you have the 2 inside, and then you'll have 1 in between the 2 middle ones. What we're talking about here is the 2 that have a tear in them. We're looking at the inside compartments, looking at like inside the glove, and so there's a tear in between the compartments. But the very center one is still there. So it's zeh shalei keneged zeh. The tear is not 2 that are right next to each other. It's still like being held more in place because the middle one is still intact. However, if it would be zeh keneged zeh, even though it's only 2, that would be puzzle. Now he goes on. He says, when do we say that two, one opposite the other one, run directly one? That's only if it's brand new. But if it's old already, then less than, but then it's not a problem. No, the explanation for this would be, if it's new, it's worse. It says, yeah, because if it's new and there's a tear, that means that there's something wrong with it inherently. There's something wrong with this cloth. But if it's an older cloth, so it tore because it's old. It's really a good cloth. It's really good, but it tore because of usage, or I don't know how usage exactly tears that. So, but somehow it tore because it was old. Amalei Abayla Rav Yosef, Rabbiya asks Rav Yosef, who was saying this last thing? But looks like it's Rava that's saying it. Okay, Abayla asks Rav Yosef, how new is new? It's like, how big is a piece of string? How long is a piece of string? How new is new, right? And how old is old? Amalei, so Rabbi Yosef responds, what do you mean? New is called hecha ki matli be b'shalcha v'hadechalim, that if you pull it and it goes back to its position, that's considered atikta. That's atikta. Idach, if it doesn't go back to its position, then that's chadata, that's new. Now there is another girsa that says it exactly the opposite, but whatever the case is, there's a difference between new and old depending on how it shrinks back to its position when you stretch it. Inami, another pshat is another difference. If you pull the strap, if the tefillin move after, if they'll come together with the strap, that means it's new tefillin. Chadata. Idach, if instead of tefillin moving, the strap tears, that's a tikta. That's old. You can imagine what's going on here with the older tefillin. That if you would pull it, it would actually tear. So that's pretty weak. You could tear your tefillin just by pulling them. Our tefillin are hefty, you know. Abaya, Rabbi Yosef Kamei de Rabbi Yosef. Abaya is sitting in front of his teacher, Rabbi Yosef. If Siklei Ritzua the tefillin, and his tefillin gets torn. Amalei, it's interesting, is that very seldom in Chazal do we mention that he was sitting there with his tefillin, and this, it happens to be we're learning the sugi of tefillin. So we mentioned one time what happened with Abaya with his tefillin. But in Masechtes Brachos and Erevin and Psachim, and we all have all types of stories with Chazal, and we don't really have that he was sitting with his tefillin, because we don't have those descriptions. He was sitting with his jacket, he was sitting with his pants, he was sitting with his tefillin. That was typical. It's only over here where we're learning Hilchos Tefillin, we're starting to get into those details. I'm saying this because there was a writer, Yehudaya Medina, what was his name? Yehudaya Medina. Leon Medina, Yehudaya Medina. He was the Venetian rabbi. Anyway, he was a character, and he wrote all types of things. And one of the books that he claimed that he wrote was that he claimed that he didn't write was Kol Sachal, and he was a very controversial figure. The Ramchal was put in Cherem because he was responding to one of his books. He wrote a book against Kabbalah, I think, Bechinas Kabbalah or something. Anyway, but then there was a book that he wrote that was like questioning things in the Tanakh. And anyway, he said, where do we find in Tanakh anyone wearing tefillin? You don't see it at all. Anyway, I'm saying, like, even in the Gemara, where it's clear they're wearing tefillin, like probably the whole day, but you don't see in all the Gemaras they're wearing tefillin. The fact that you don't find something is not a raya that it's not there. It's a lack of a raya, but doesn't mean it's a raya. Anyway,
The phrase is that the absence of proof is not proof of absence.
Yeah, very good. So here we have
Is this the rabbi that you were talking about, the one who wrote an autobiography, the one who had a gambling problem?
Yeah. He's very honest. So at least I think so. Amalei, so his Abaya's tefillin tore. So Abaya says to Rabbi Yosef, "Ma'al miktri, am I allowed to tie it?" Amalei ukshartam ksiv, shetehei kshiratama. It has to be a perfect knot, which means that you're only supposed to have one knot, not a bunch of knots. Kshiratama means just this knot. That's the only knot. You're not supposed to have separate knots in the tefillin. What about if you sew it? Not to make it into a knot, like a bulgy knot in the straps. You take thread and you sew it together. And then you keep the stitches on the inside, which you can do. You don't have to show stitches from both sides. It's still going to look perfectly. Amar Pukhazi Ma'ayama Debar. It's a famous quote. It says, "Go see what people are doing," which means that if people aren't doing it, then don't do it. They probably know what they're doing. Rashi says, since people don't do it, don't do it. Amadabar means the people outside. Bar means outside. Amar Rav Papa says that Gardumi Ritzuis Ksheris, stubs of the Ritzuis is kosher. Means if you don't have the whole strap, it's still good. As long as you have the knot, we're talking about the tefillin shoresh, you have the knot, it's good enough. Gemara says, it sort of attacks Rav Papa. It says, Valav Milsi. It's not true what Rav Papa is saying, that it's still acceptable to have the stubs. Midamri b'nei Reb Chia, because the sons of Reb Chia said, sons of Reb Chia are Yehuda and Chizkiah. They're the sons of Reb Chia. It says Gardume Tchelas Gardume Yezay Ksherin. There are two gardumin that are kosher, stubs. Those are the hyssop that's used to sprinkle the water of the paraduma, the azav. You needed to dip it in the agudas azav. You dip it inside the water and then you use it to sprinkle. And then another thing is the gardume tzitzis, the gardume tchelas, stubs of that are tzitzis. That's kosher. But the fact that it says only these two, hasamhu, it's only over the air that it's kosher, the tashmishi mitzvah, because that's only how do you say tashmisha? They're secondary things that are used for that are used just for a mitzvah. Aval hacha the tashmishi kedusha, but over here it's much holier. This itself is kedusha, the kedusha ninu, the tashmishi kedusha ninu loy, and maybe the stubs aren't enough. Maybe over here it needs to be complete. In other words, you can't compare tashmishi mitzvah to tashmishi kedusha. Tzitzis aren't tashmishi kedusha. That's why they're just garments that we wear, and it says, what do you have to do? You have to. It's like saying garments without shatnez. It's not kedusha. It's like meat that was shechted. It's not kedusha. So it's something that a mitzvah is performed with, but it's not like it has Hashem's name in it, something like that. That's kedusha. Michlal, but that would imply.
Rabbi, accessory. I think that's the word you're looking for.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Accessory. Yeah. Used to have stores that had the word accessory in it, no? Or something like that. Were there some sort of accessories? It would have like shops that would have something accessories. Anyway. Michlal, that implies dislush yura. That if it needs to have a certain measurement, that the gardumim are not enough, that must mean that there is an actual measurement. So what is the measurement? Says adetz betzrada means the length of the betzrada is the first finger. First finger. I guess it would go from this one opinion over here. This is quite a complex sugya. In Taisvis, he brings some opinions that hold that adetz betzrada means that we're talking about the tefillin shel yad and it has to go down all the way till the finger, right? But it seems like from Rashi that we're dealing with the tefillin shel rosh, and we're saying how long it has to hang down out of the knot. So it's really like this amount. That's betzrada would mean between this amount of two fingers. Rav Kana machvi kafaf, Rav Ashi machvi pashat. Rav Kana he showed his fingers bent. No, this he calls this kafaf when you have the two fingers over here, and Rav Ashi said pashat, which is the thumb from the first finger, where the first finger straight. Kafaf would mean that you have to bend the first finger outwards. I would have imagined kafaf meant bent downwards, but it seems like the commentators are saying that kafaf means that it's bent out. That's how long it needs to be. And Rav Kana says that it's like a fake gun. Yeah. Okay. That's this size from the thumb to the Rabba katalahu upashit v'shadilo. Rabba, when he put on his tefillin, he would let the straps hang behind his back. He wouldn't take them into the front. Rav Acha bar Yaakov katalu. Rav Acha bar Yaakov, he would tie them, and then he would braid them afterwards. After he put it on his head, it looks like they were tying it. It looks like the knot was being made. I don't know. Mar Breder Ravina Avdi Avid Kedidan. Mar Breder Ravina, he would do it the way we do it, where we put the knots in the back of the head, but the straps come down towards the front. Amar Rav Yehuda Breder Rav Shmuel Bar Shelas. Shmei Rav Yehuda, son of Rav Shmuel Bar Shelas, says in the name of Rav, Kesher Shel Tefillin, Halach L'Moshe Misinai. The knot of the tefillin that has the dalet on it, or the yud on it, that's a Halach L'Moshe Misinai. It needs to be made. It needs to be made properly. Let me just see what the comment here is. It's yes. Okay. Amar Rav Nachman says, "V'naveyim labar," and the nice side of the ritzuas has to be on the outside. Yeah, the naveyim means what's the beautiful part has to be facing outwards. It means the black part. Rav Ashi have a Yosef Kamei de Mar Zutra. Rav Ashi is sitting in front of Rav Zutra. Sapachle ritzua de tefillin. Rav Ashi's tefillin turned over. Amalei leisavrala v'naveyim labar. So Mar Zutra says to Rav Ashi, you don't hold that what Rav Nachman says, that the nice part of the strap has to be on the outside. Amalei lavadaiti says how it's a mistake. I didn't realize. Okay. You remember there's a Gemara, someone fasted because his tefillin strap turned over. I forget who it was, maybe Rav Huna. Anyway, it seems over here Rav Ashi did not fast. It doesn't seem like there's much... Okay, the pasuk says, the nations of the world will see that the name of Hashem is called upon you and they'll be afraid of you. They will fear you. V'tanya, starting in the Brisa, what does it mean the name of Hashem is upon you? It's referring to the head tefillin, which has the majority of the name of Shin Dalet and Yud. It says, I will remove my palm. And you will see my back. This is Hashem telling Moshe. Amar Rav Chana bar Bizna, Rav Shimon Chasida. This teaches us that Hashem showed Moshe the knot of the tefillin, which is on the back. Amar Rav Yehuda, Kesher Shel Tefillin, Tzarech Sheyeh L'mayla, V'dei Yisrael L'mayla V'loi L'mata. Tzarech Sheyeh Klapi Apanim, V'dei Yisrael L'fanim V'loi L'achar. So it's symbolic. The knot of the tefillin is symbolic of the Jewish people. You can put the tefillin on and you can let it go all the way down, lower and down on the neck, but that's not correct. It has to go up to the top of the head, right under the where there's it's like a little bulge where there's a bone. Let's go right under that bone. You shouldn't have it go down onto the neck itself. It should be on the head, as high up as it can go under that bone. Yeah, Dr. Moss over here likes to talk about that the back of the head is the occipital cortex, the part of the brain that has the eye that deals with vision. He wants to say that the Beinei Necha, which really we don't do Beinei Necha, we don't put it over here, we put it on the head. He says the Beinei Necha is referring also to the knot. Because the knot, that's the part of the head, that's the brain that deals with the vision. Anyway, it's cute. But what Agamar is saying is that it needs to be higher up, and also it can't be twisted to the side. The higher up represents that the Jewish people will be high up, not down low, and also it should be right in the center and not to the sides. Also, that the Jewish people should be centered. There's another pshat that it's talking about the tefillin shel yad. It has to be high up on the arm, and then turns inward and not turns outward, like pulled inward. Okay, I'm Rav Shmuel bar Bidri Amar Rav. Who's bar Bidri? What was his name? She says. V'amrila Amarav Acharicha Amarav Huna V'amrila Amarav Menashe Amar Shmuel Tefillin Meimasayim B'varech Aleim. When do you say the bracha on tefillin? We're going to get into an interesting sugi over here, Machlekes, Mechaber and Ramah. When do you say the bracha on tefillin? says Mishas Anachasim, from the time that you put it on. One understands that after you put it on, you say the bracha. When it says Eini, is that really so? Is that how we do it? That's not so. You're supposed to say the bracha before you do the mitzvah, not after you do the mitzvah. Oiver lasiyasan. The Gemara Pesachim says Oiver means beforehand. Abaye v'Rava Damitarbayo. Abaye and Rava both say Mishas Anacha Avad Shas Ksira, that you put it on, but you don't tie it yet. So the bracha is when it's in place, but before it's knotted. So then it's Oiver lasiyasan. Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says, get ready for this big sugya. Sach bin tefillah l'tefillah. Someone talks. He makes an interruption in between the shalyan and the shalreish. Chayzer mavarich. He has to go back and say another bracha. Be interrupted. So reply to any interruption, even if it's not because he spoke something that he wasn't allowed to say. Even if he said, Amin yesh mirabba, said something, he said he's supposed to. He has to say a new bracha. Sach in, that's only if he spoke. Lai sach, but if he didn't speak, then lai, he doesn't say a bracha. It means he's only saying a bracha on the shalyad, he's not saying a bracha on the shalreish. Problem is, v'hashalach Rav Chia Breder Rav Huna Mishmid Rav Yochanan, we have a statement from Rav Yochanan that says, Al tefillah shalyad Aimer Baruch Hashem Kedushan b'mitzvah v'tzivano lahaniach tefillin. Al tefillin shalreish Aimer Baruch Hashem Kedushan b'mitzvah v'tzivano al mitzvahs tefillin. Rabbi Yochanan says that there's two separate brachas. You're telling me that you don't even say a second bracha unless you spoke. Now, but how does Rabbi Yochanan say that there's two brachas? So Abaye of Rava, Dami Tarvayo, Abaye and Rava explain this. They both say that loisach mevarich achas. If you don't speak, you're right. Then you only say one bracha. But sach mevarich shtayim. But if you do speak, you say two brachas. Now, just to get a geschmack in what's how a machlekes works over here, you have to see this. Take a look at Taisvus Reb Naftali. Leisach mevarich achas, sach mevarich shtayim.
Okay.
Taisvus says, Pirsh b'kuntris, leisach, if you don't speak, no interruption, mevarich achas, ben shal yad, ben shal reish. One bracha. But sach, if you spoke, mevarich shtayim, laniach tefillin b'shal yad, you say a bracha on the shal yad, or mitzvah tefillin b'shal reish, you say a bracha on the shal reish. Okay, that seems to be the simple pshat here, right? Comes along with Rabbi Natan Pirish, he has a dum pshat. Loisach mevarich achas l'shal reish. You're always saying a bracha on the shal reish. You only say one bracha on the shal. You said already a bracha on the shal yad, laniach tefillin. But if you spoke, but if you didn't speak, you say a bracha on the shal reish as well. Mevarich al mitzvahs tefillin. Zui berchasi. Zach, if you speak on in between the shal yad and the shal reish, an interruption, mevarich beis l'shal reish, laniach val mitzvahs. You have to say two brachas on the shal reish. You hear? This is like a classical machlekes on how to read the words of the Gemara. Loisach mevarich achas means achas on the shal yad and nothing on the shal reish. But loisach mevarich achas means one bracha on the shal reish. It's machlekes mechaber and the Rama. The Rama actually says that we say a second bracha like Rabbi Tam, but to be yaitza you say Baruch Shem Kavod after. You remember this thing? The Nusach Ashkenaz. They say two brachas on the tefillah.
Oh yeah.
And then afterwards you say Baruch Shem. After you tighten it, you say Baruch Shem just to be safe.
Saying two brachas.
Yeah.
A while ago. My previous lifetime.
Yeah, you got 9 lives, right?
I can't.
Okay. Yeah. Tana. This is interesting because these two machlekes that we had recently, we had the Rashi and Rabbi Tam Aman Lamed Vav. It's about 10 lines down. Tana. We had the machlekes Rashi and Rabbi Tam about the tefillin, about the order of the parshas. Now we have another machlekes Rashi and Rabbi Tam. It's so easy to see the machlekes in the words of the Gemara. You know, without even looking at other places in Shas. Usually machlekes and Rashi and Taisvus have to do it. Taisvus has another Gemara somewhere that's compelling him to learn it differently. Over here, it's in the Gemara itself where you're able to see this. Tana, sach bein tefillah tefillah. If someone speaks, interruption between the two tefillin shel yad and tefillin shel reish, aveira hi biyadi. It's an aveira. B'chayzer alem archem melchama. Said he has to say a new bracha regardless of that. Yeah, there is another bracha, but he has to. If it's such an aveira that when the kohen gives a talk, pep talk, before they go out to battle, he says anyone that built a new house, someone that has any averas, hayariv rachaleva, should go back home because he's afraid that maybe something will happen to him. So that applies even if his only avera is that he spoke in between the shel yad and the shel reish. I don't know if that means they were very strict over there, if that means this is quite a hefty avera. Tana.
Yeah, it could mean, I just thought, when you're in the army, you follow orders. If this is the rule, you do not question, you not speak, you nothing. So if you can't even do that for the rule of the tefillin, forget about going to war.
Right.
Rennie, that's going in the book.
That's going in your book.
It's going in my book? You haven't put stuff in my book for so long.
We'll get AI to go through all the recordings and to collect your comments. Now,
and it'll go right into Ganisa.
Now, there was a book about, I forget, one of the Art Scroll biographies.
Can't buy any books.
Sadi Weissman.
So, I'm just only reading that on Shabbos.
One of the books over there is talking about the yeshiva in Slobodka. And apparently, I think Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky went in Slobodka. I forget who the biography was about. Maybe it was about Rabbi Yaakov. I don't know. But anyway, they're talking about one time a fire truck went outside the yeshiva. And one of the Bachrim looked outside the window because there was noise. He looked outside. So the Alter said, nothing's ever going to become of him, this Bachar. If he can't control himself from looking outside with that little thing, he's a waste of time. Okay, anyway. Tana, miniach shel yad v'achkach miniach shel reish. When you put on the tefillin, this is a classic bar mitzvah drasha. You put on the shel yad first, and then afterwards you put on the head. When you take off the tefillin, chelet shel reish v'achkach chelet shel yad. The darshanim at the bar mitzvah speeches 50 years ago, they would say that even though you have a lot of questions about Hashem and about all of the things that you're learning in school and how does it fit, but you put on the tefillin that represents halacha l'maisa, you have to do it. And then you philosophize afterwards. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you take it off, all the philosophy, you're still left with the shel yad, you're still doing the halacha l'maisa.
But it's just because of the pasuk.
Yeah, but the darshanim, this is a bar mitzvah speech. Okay. The Gemara knows what Dr. Stein says, that it says in the pasuk. It says kshartam. First you tie it on the hand, and then you put it on the head. But what are you telling me about when you're taking it off? Where do you know that from? That you have to take off first the head and then the shel yad. Amar Rabba says, Rav Huna Asperli. Rav Huna taught it to me. Now, I bet the Huna is not here. I bet the Rav is not here, because sometimes he says Huna Asperli. Oh, no, he says over here, Rav Hamnuna Asperli. Rav Hamnuna Asperli. Rav Hamnuna told me, Amar Kra, V'hayu l'tayt v'speininecha. It says the word V'hayu, means it should be. V'hayu l'tayt v'speininecha. Kol zman shebeininecha yushtayim. Whenever it's between your eyes, it should be two. Yeah. V'hayu, and base should be. V'hayu is the plural? Yeah, I guess so. Because of the vav, the vav at the end.
Yeah. Otherwise it would be the haya.
Right. They should be, that means that whenever it's between your eyes, you should have two. There should be two there. When do you say a bracha on the tefillin? At the time that you put it on. Ketzad. How is this? Let's say someone wakes up early in the morning. Now, mishas hanachasa means at the time that you're able to put them on, not just when you put them on. When you're able to put them on, so that is mishayakir. Rashi says, tefillin, kaidim amud hashachar, you say the bracha, mishas hanachasan, which is mishayir chaveir merchek daled amas. Yeah. Ketzad, how do you do this? It says, "Hey, mashkim, let's say someone wakes up early before Leisa Shachar. He's afraid that he's going to lose the tefillin. So minichan, he puts them on. And when the time comes for him to wear them properly, because it's the time for tefillin, he gives a little twist of the tefillin, like he adjusts them. Then he says the bracha.
Wait, so early as talisman is not the same as early as
It is. It's the same zman. What we're saying is that theoretically, if someone was going on a trip, he could put them on even without being the zman, and then he just adjusts it and says the bracha then. Bat masai manichan. How long do you have to wear them? Until sunset. We're giving us a Hanukkah description over here. Until there's no feet left in the marketplace. Say until you go to sleep. Now, what's going to come out over here is that we'll see in a moment. But basically, there's a machlekes if Laila's man tefillin. Is nighttime the time for tefillin? If you hold they have to take it off at shkia, because nighttime is not the time for tefillin. If you hold that you're allowed to wear them after shkia, just not while you're asleep or not at the time or afraid that you're going to fall asleep, then really Laila is man tefillin. Only thing is, we have a gzeira, we have a concern that someone may pass gas while he's wearing the tefillin, so we tell him to take them off.
So why isn't this concerns with people who wear a tzitzis?
No, tzitzis doesn't have that issue. Tzitzis is not kedusha. Yeah. Maidim chachamim leRabbi Yaakov or the Rebbe. Maidim chachamim v'Rebbe sheim chaltzan latzis lebeis hakisei. If someone takes them off because he needs to use the restroom, the kanas lebeis hamerchatz, or to use to take a bath, v'shakachama, and then the sun set. You don't put them on, even though maybe they held that you were allowed to wear it until then, but once it becomes night, you don't put them back on. Yeah, Teshus explains that has to do with the Zman, the Laila Sonatum. Amar Rav Nachman Alach Reb Yaakov. Rav Nachman says Allah is like Reb Yaakov. Yaakov's shita was that Achetichla Regel Minashuk. Okay, Rav Chizda, Rabbi Baravuna, Masla Burta. Rav Chizda, if that's the case, that Rav Chizda and Rabbi Baravuna, they would daven Ma'ariv in the tefillin, because you daven Ma'ariv, you can first Rashi, and the first Daf and Shas, we learn that you can daven Ma'ariv even before Shkia. But here we're saying even if it's after Shkia, they can daven Ma'ariv in tefillin because you have after Shkia, you still have time. Some said that the Allah is not like Rabbi Yaakov, that you can only wear it until Shkia. They daven Ma'ariv in it. That's obviously a machlekes. This is so interesting because why don't you just say that they daven Ma'ariv early? Maybe because they're using the word be'urta means that they were not davening Ma'ariv. Urta means at night. Urta means Ma'ariv, but maybe the fact. But maybe urta means the night, or urta means night.
Or labas.
Yeah. Or
it means.
Miyamar Rabba Baravuna Hachi, does Rabba Baravuna say that you can wear tefillin at night? But Amar Rabba Baravuna Savik Hashecha Savik Leichashecha Leichayletz B'lay Miniach. You're not supposed to take. You don't have to take it off, but you don't have to put it on if it's a doubt, if it's already nightfall. But if it's obviously is nightfall, then it says chayletz. Then you should have to take it off. When he answers Erev Shabbos, that's a different story. Now we're talking about Friday afternoon. Shabbos he can't wear tefillin, but on a regular Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, he wouldn't have said that. He would say you could wear it at night till till the Zman of Ad Shetich the Regel. Micah Savar. What's going on with Rabbi Baravuna? What does he hold? Ika Savar Lailas Man Tefillinu, Shabbos Nami's Man Tefillin. If he holds that the time for that you're allowed to wear tefillin, that the time for tefillin includes the night, so then it should include Shabbos as well. We'll see in a moment. Because Shabbos Labs Man Tefillin, if he holds that Shabbos is not the time for tefillin, then Laila Nami Labs, those are consistent, as we'll see in a moment. Shabbos, the same place where you know you don't wear tefillin on Shabbos, you also know you don't wear tefillin at night. So they have to go hand in hand. So how could he hold that night is yes acceptable and Shabbos not acceptable? Tanya was taught in a brayso of Shemarta Sechuka Zayslamayda Miyamim Yamima. You should guard this statute for all times. Yeah, Miyamim Yamima. Now it says Miyamim Yamima. How do they translate that? From days? From days of old?
From day to day.
From day to day. So Yamim v'lay leilis. When it says Yamim, it means not at night. Mi Yamim. When it says from days, it means v'lay kol Yamim, but not all days. So if I say Yamim Yamima is referring to tefillin, then that excludes night and it also excludes Shabbos. That's the Rabbi Yossi Glili. Rabbi Kiva says, when it's not talking about tefillin, it's talking about the Korban Pesach. That you have to do the Korban Pesach every year. Yamim Yamima every year. So according to Rabbi Yossi Glili, night and Shabbos are not the time for tefillin. According to Rabbi Kiva, it is. So what does Rabbi Baravuna hold? The Gemara says, Nafkale mehechad the Nafkale Rabbi Akiva. He actually learns from where Rabbi Akiva learns, not to wear tefillin on Shabbos. The Tanya, Rabbi Akiva says, maybe a person could wear his tefillin on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Talmud Leimar, should be a sign on your hand and between frontlets, between your eyes. Only on days that require a sign. Shabbos and Yom Tov are themselves a sign. Therefore, he has another source for Shabbos that's not a source for night. Because he can divide up. Shabbos is not the time for tefillin, but night is the time for tefillin. That's when he takes off the tefillin by night, by Friday night, but not during the rest of the week.
With regard to this discussion we just went through, do you know the circumstances that are present? In other words, is this somebody who put on tefillin with a bracha in the morning, and now in the afternoon he took them off and he needs to put them back because he had to go to some unclean place.
Right.
And now he's putting them back on? Or is this somebody who has not put them on at all this day?
So the last Gemara was Rabbi Baravuna is talking about when you're wearing them and it becomes nightfall. Yeah.
But so it's about somebody who's he shed the bracha on them and they're still on him. And the question is when to take them off. But what I'm asking, it's assuming that everybody put them on in the morning and made the bracha. Okay.
Yeah.
It must be that.
Okay, I'm running out to the airport, but there is a discussion of Naftali about if you say a bracha on Erev Shabbos when you remove the tefillin, to a bracha l'saper chukai, that to take off the tefillin. There's like a mitzvah from here to take off the tefillin. There's one opinion that holds that you say a bracha.
Where did we stop?
I stopped by Amar Rabbi Lazar. It's 3 lines down from the wide lines, in the middle of the page.
Nasiya Tova.
Thank
Good
you.
Shabbos.
Yeah, have a good Shabbos.